All right, that tray I was talking about, this is what that tray is going to look like. Inside of it has 2 containers for slip, 1 for each side of the table. It has tools that you're going to be sharing. There's at least 2 of each tool. And then there's 2 sponges, and then this bucket of water will stay in here. You'll see what this is for at the end of the project in just a little bit. Okay? So when you get to class, you're going to get your area set up. You're going to get your slip put on your desk between you two. You're going to get all of your materials. You're going to need just about all of the materials there that you have available. Okay? And then you're going to get your clay from me. Okay? The first time you get your clay, I will probably just cut it right there in front of everybody. It won't be in a bag. Okay? There's my clay. Now, the first thing we're going to do is start by making 2 equal-sized pinch pots. Okay? Now, if you've never made pinch pots before, it sounds and looks easier than it actually is. Okay? You're going to start by taking your clay and you're going to divide out the size chunks that you're going to need to make your pinch pots. The size I'm going to go for is kind of a little bit smaller than a baseball, but it fits in the palm of my hand like this. Okay? I need 2 of them the same size. So you're going to make your chunks of clay get as close to the same size as possible. If you need to take some away or you need to add some to it, get your 2 equal size. Anytime you have extra clay, it always needs to be put into a bag so it doesn't dry out. So this extra clay, I'm going to stick in this bag. I will have spray bottles stationed around the classroom. You always want to give it at least 1 or 2 sprays so that way it holds all that moisture inside so your clay doesn't dry out. Then I'm going to take the grocery bag. I'm going to gather it tightly, twist it a couple times, and then I kind of fold it over so that way no air can get inside. And then you leave it on your table while you're working. Okay? Extra clay so it doesn't dry out, gets put away. Now, I have my 2 spheres here. I'm ready to start making my pinch pot. I like to start by making sure it's semi-compact and smooth. Then I'm going to start by putting my thumb through the middle. Okay? A pinch pot is pinched. Remember from that quiz yesterday? I am slowly turning and rotating my pinch pot and pinching from the bottom up. Okay? My hands are going like this on the inside of this pinch pot. Really, my outside fingers are doing more of the pinching. My thumb is kind of holding it in place. Okay? I work from the bottom, and then I'm slowly, if you notice up here, it's thicker, and I'm slowly moving up, making that get thinner to make my bowl shape. Now, with clay, the thickness of it is important. Okay? If it is too big, it doesn't dry out enough, and it explodes. Eliza, I need that headphone out of your ear during instruction time. Thank you. If it's too thick, it'll explode. If it's too thin, it's going to break before it even gets to the kiln. Okay? Here's how I kind of judge it. It cannot be thicker than the width of your thumb, and it should not be smaller than the width of your pinky. Okay? If it's smaller, it'll break. If it's thicker, it could blow up in the kiln. Okay? So as you're spinning and you are pinching this clay piece, you're also checking the bottom to make sure it's equally as thin or same size. I'm rotating and pinching an even amount of pressure. Boys, you should not be talking. Okay? You want 2 pretty equal-sized pinch pots. Okay, I'm going to put this one to the side while I work on my second one. We need these equal because we're going to be attaching them together to make that hollow sphere. This sphere is where we are going to hold the water that's going to water your plant. All right, I'm trying to work quickly for you guys. Remember, this usually is a pretty slow process. because you want to make sure it doesn't crack and that it is nice and even all the way around. This will be all done in day 1. You'll make 2 pinch pots and we'll attach them. That will be probably the end of day 1. Okay. Stop and check in between making it to make sure it's kind of close to the same size. All right. Now, what do we have to do when we need to attach 2 pieces of clay? What's that called? Scoring. There's also another word. What do we have to do? Slip. Slip and score. Your slip is that liquid clay that acts like the glue. I just use my finger. I get some of the clay in water, and then I'm going to rub it where those 2 pieces are going to connect. Make sure both pieces get slip and score, not just one. And what was scoring? What does that mean? Roughly scratching. Thank you, Caleb. He's paying attention. I'm going to go over, using a toothpick, it's the most expensive tool you have here, and scratch the top of the rim of your clay pinch pots. You have to do both of them. Okay, then I can flip one over on top of the other and match them up. We slip, score, squish, and gently pushing them together. You don't want to collapse your whole piece, so you need to be extremely careful. Notice my hands are still in this curved state to hold this as a sphere. I think somebody just ran into the wall. It's okay. Okay. Slip, score, squish, and then smooth. You need this seam right here to go away completely. So I'm going to go back and forth like this with my fingers, making that seam go away. Okay, we're going to keep it kind of smooth, but don't worry about trying to get it 100% the smoothest it's ever going to be, because you're still working on it. You're not done. We're going to make sure everything's completely smooth at the very end once we have everything built. Okay, so now I have a hollow sphere. Right now at this stage, it is still pretty wet, that if I set it down, it's going to kind of get a flat bottom. Now, if that's what you want, do it. But if you don't want it, we're going to try and let it actually dry a little bit. Okay? So this would be the end of day 1. End of day 1, you take your other bag and you put it inside. Now, if we need it to dry out a little bit so it doesn't move, we're not going to add any water this time. Okay? You would just close it up tight because you don't want it to dry out too much. Twist it carefully and go put it on your shelf. Okay? Day 2, you come back in. You're going to take out your piece and you're going to leave it on the counter or the table on your thing for a little bit to dry a little bit more while you're building any appendages, arms, legs, head, whatever it is you're adding to make this into whatever your idea was, you're going to start doing on day 2. Okay? Day 2 and 3 will be spent making those 2 things, or those things, your appendages. So I think, my idea, I want to turn that sphere, I want to try and do the Hello Kitty. Okay? Now, this one is going to be difficult, so if you have something like this, that it's sitting on top of something else, you actually have to make like the base part of this before you do arms, legs, and ears. Because they both have to be, the sphere and her body have to be a little bit solid in order for it to not collapse on each other, because clay is heavy when it's wet. Okay? So I'm going to make the body first. Now, her body, we cannot make it completely solid, or it's going to be thicker than our thumb, and it's not going to dry. So actually, what I'm going to do is make another pinch pot. I'm going to take out a little bit of clay. I don't want a big one. I actually want it to be, remember we talked about proportion? I want her body to be a little bit disproportionate. Oh, shoot. Okay, this leads me into nails. Girls and guys, you don't want long nails. Okay? My nails are not that long right now, but they were still long enough that I just accidentally took a chunk out of my clay. It happens really easily. It's on accident usually, but just a warning, you might want to cut your nails when we come back after spring break, because you're going to be dealing with clay. Okay? Any extra clay gets put in the bag. I'm not going to spray it because it's still wet from just a few minutes ago. I'm going to take this extra clay and I'm going to make that pinch pot again. Okay? I'm putting my thumb through. This time this one's smaller, so you're going to notice it's actually going to go a little bit quicker. We should not be talking. You should be paying attention to me. You still want it to be that nice even thickness throughout. I kind of want it to be taller, so I'm actually going to try and curve this in a little bit as I'm pinching. Okay, you can kind of tap it on your thing to flatten out the top edge. Get it to the right shape, smoothness that you want. Okay? And so now I have my body. Remember I talked about making this and leaving it out to dry for a little bit. So that way it can actually get sturdier. So that way when I put the head on top, it will hold the head. Okay? But you can't do it now because it's still really wet and heavy. But we have to do it before it dries completely. So it's like this happy medium place that you have to work around it. Okay? If you're unsure when you're making this stuff, ask me. Okay? I'll be walking around trying to help people. Alright, so my body's made, my head and stuff, they're drying right now. I'm going to start on my feet. There are different ways you can do things other than just the slab, the coil, and the pinch pot. Okay? I'm going to make the feet right now. When you are making things that are supposed to be the same size, like feet are supposed to be pretty similar in size, right? You want to start just like we did with the pinch pots, where we kind of take that clay. I'm going to see. Do I want my foot that big? No. I take that clay chunk and I get the two pieces of clay similar in size to begin with before I start sculpting them. Okay, you can add clay, you can take away clay, whatever it is you need to make it the same. Okay, so now I'm going to make my feet. I like to start with a sphere. Okay, now I'm going to figure out where I want to add these. I'm going to add them on this side. Anytime you're attaching pieces together, what do you have to do? Slip and score. Good. So I want to put my 2 feet probably right here, but I kind of want them more of an oval type shape. So I'm actually going to take it and I'm going to kind of squash it and mold it. You can change the shape of things just by kind of squishing and playing with it. Okay, I kind of want a flat base because that's where I'm going to slip and score to attach it. If things look like they start drying out, just get a little bit of that slip water and kind of go back over it to make sure it's not drying out on you. It dries out because your hands are actually absorbing the water from the clay. So the more you play with it, the more it dries out. This is why you need to have your idea, know what you're doing before you start. Okay? This is why that on Monday and Tuesday next week, we will be practicing with Play-Doh before I give you the real clay, so that way you don't mess it up on your real clay, because that would be sad and disappointing. Okay? So that's where I want to add those two. I like to kind of press it there gently to get that spot marked, and then I take it away, I slip, and then I score those areas. Really make sure you're scoring it. If you do not do this, guys, your piece is going to fall off and there's nothing I can do about it, even after it's fired. It's not a magical thing. Tape's not magical. Nothing's magical like this. You have to put in the work to get things to stay. Okay? So I've slipped, I've scored. I'm now going to take those two, gently press and squish it in there, and then smooth out any of the seams. If you have a tight seam like this one, you can use your tools to actually help with those seams. Okay, there's one foot. Here's foot number 2. Squish and then smooth the seams. If you notice that the shape of my foot kind of changed a little bit as I've been doing this, so I'm actually just going to put it back down, and then you can go back through and adjust and smooth those kind of things. Okay, I've got my 2 feet. I would do the same process and do the arms, and then I would do the same process for the tails. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of a different process because you may do something like this for yours. For the arms, I'm actually, because I have the sleeve and I have the hand, I'm going to show you how to sculpt it once you already have slipped and scored it. All right, let me make sure I got my 2 equal sizes. Brecken and Karen, we are not talking, you are listening and watching. All right. So I'm just going to take my chunk of clay. I know I want the arm here on the side, so I'm going to slip and score. And just attach this chunk without any real shape to it. Slip, score, squish, and then smooth it down. I prefer to use the popsicle stick, it's smaller. Okay, now once it's on here, I can go through and I can mold and I can shape it on my clay that's here. So I need to get the sleeve and the hand out of this piece. So it's all one. To do that, I'm going to use my tools. So I'm going to first start by marking out where I want that sleeve. Once I have that sleeve marked out, I can start working on pressing the hand. And then I need a thumb, so her fingers kind of look like a glove. Okay? So then I was able to sculpt the hand right on there. Okay? All right. I would keep going. I'd make the other arm and stuff. For sake of time today, I am not going to do that. You can just imagine that that has another arm on the other side. Okay? All right. Now I'm going to show you how to do something like eyes, nose, all that kind of stuff. Okay? So I'm going to start by taking my head. I'm going to imagine that I want to draw. You can always sketch things on it too. I want the ear to be in this area. And then I'm going to do another ear over here. Okay. Then I'm going to go through and I'm going to put probably the nose here. And then space for eyes. Is that spaced out evenly? No. Hello Kitty's eyes are further apart than that, aren't they? So I'm going to smooth it back over. That's why we draw first, because you can smooth it back over and fix it. Okay, I'm just using that toothpick to kind of draw it on there. I think that's better. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm going to show you how to do eyes. There's two ways, so I'm going to show you two different ones. One of them is using one of these tools that we have here. It's actually used for carving things out. Now remember, this is a sphere that's hollow, so I cannot carve too far or I'm going to go all the way through. Okay, remember your thickness of it. So I'm going to do just a little bit, and I'm going to carve. Can you see that? Go this way. Following that shape that I just did, carve out a little bit of clay here. So now I have an eye socket. I can take a little bit more clay, actually roll a sphere, and then roll it into a little bit of a oval shape like her eye shape is. Slip. I just lost it. Slip and score your pieces. And then you can actually attach basically an eye inside. Okay? So that's one way to make an eye. The other way to make an eye, it probably doesn't really work for Hello Kitty too well, but you can take the end of that same tool and kind of just press into her eye socket. Either way will kind of work and get you the same effect. Okay? The nose I would add on top, just like I did before, where you get your clay, you slip score, and attach it. Same thing with the ears. The ears, I'm going to make a slab. Remember, you have access to all those different kinds of ways of making things. You can do coil for things, however it is you need to do it. But I'm going to make a slab. I don't have enough clay. Okay, I'm just going to make a slab with my hands. I'm not going to worry about a rolling pin. Okay, think about the thickness of it. How thick do you want, for my case, the ear? Okay, then you can take your toothpick and you can draw it on there. What size do I want? Are her ears big for her head or not? I don't think so. Don't forget, like when you're doing this is curved, her head is curved, so I'm actually going to draw out a curved shape to fit. Once I draw it out, I can use either the toothpick or you can use your popsicle stick to go all the way through and slice and cut out your shape that you just did. Okay, that's extra. This is my ear. Make sure you're checking, especially when you do a slab and you pressed it here, make sure it doesn't stick before you start drawing, because then it'll just mess up your design and you'll have to start again. Okay. Remember, don't worry about getting it super smooth right away. We'll smooth everything out at the very, very end, very last day. Remember, right now what I'm showing you is day 2 and 3. Day 2 and 3 is adding your appendages. Okay. Slip score. Now I can squish it on. Okay. Notice that when I'm squishing and stuff, all that, I like to hold my sphere so I'm not pushing on a flat surface. My hand is curved when I'm holding it, so I'm not messing up what I worked hard to make. All right. Okay. And I would repeat it again, obviously, for the other ear. Now, I would need to attach these two together, right? Remember to add the head onto my body. But remember I said we have to kind of let them dry? Because I'm having to do this all in one class period right now, I can't attach them yet because it would collapse. This would just be way too heavy for it, okay? But just like we attached other things, you slip, score, and then attach it, just like we have done everything else. Does everybody understand that part? Okay. So day 2 and 3, we're adding appendages. Day 4, the very last day, you need to remember or think about beforehand too, where do you want the plants to grow? Remember, the sphere is where the water is, so that is where the plants have to go. So for my Hello Kitty, I want it to look like the plants are growing her hair. So I would take my toothpick and I'm going to basically score my clay so that way the chia seeds have some place to hold on to and go inside of. They're going to go inside all the score marks. Here was my hedgehog. Everywhere that I have score marks here on his back, that's where the chia seeds go. And there's no paint there. Okay? Then I also have a hole where I pour water inside to water those plants. Okay? I'm going to start with the hole. I am actually going to put the hole probably towards the back a little bit, but it still has to be at the top. If I put it at the bottom, what's going to happen to the water? It's going to all fall out, okay? So find some place towards the top. I just simply take the straw. I gently push and twist my way through, and then I pull it back out, okay? It's okay if your clay falls inside. It's not okay if it's still in there, okay? So you can either, one, take a toothpick and push it all the way through, or you can try and pull it out. I suggest you just push it all the way through. As long as it's completely clear and you have all the way down through there you can fill with water, you're going to be good. Okay? So I've got my hole. Now you can start scoring where the chia seeds go. You can be intentional with it. So I want to make it look like it's her hair. So I'm actually going to draw like I'm doing hair. So I'm just going to make a whole bunch of lines going down and around to look like hair. Okay. Is this making sense, guys? Okay. I would keep going all over her hair. I just don't have ear on that side. Okay? That's the end of day 4. Your very last step that day is to use your bowl of water that you share in the middle between you guys and your sponge Get the sponge wet, but wring out all of the water. Your very last step is to go over your whole clay piece and make sure it's all super smooth. Anything that's left not smoothed out will be basically sharp. It's going to turn to stone, so it will be like a hard rock. So make sure everything's super smooth so there's no sharp places that can cut you once it's been fired. Okay? Any questions? Okay? Remember, every day you have your cleanup. You take your board over to the trash can. You dump out any extra clay pieces, or not extra clay pieces, any dust pieces in there. You put everything back, your whole tote tray, everything goes back in here, your bowl of water, your sponges, your slip, all your tools have to go back in there. If it's a day that we're still working, day 1, 2, or 3, it needs to be wrapped up tight in your grocery bag. Spray it with 1 to 2 sprays of water, and then you put your clay piece on the shelf. Any extra clay goes in your tote tray. But on the very last day, I'll have a special place for you to put your finished piece, not in a bag. And then I'll have a special place for you to put any extra clay that you may have. Okay? Questions? All right. You may go ahead and put the pillows back and head back to your seats. You have about 10 minutes left. I want you to look at your drawing. Now that you know how to make it, make sure everything is planned out. It's going to work. And then Monday we will practice.